Welcome back to Important Updates. Global news without the noise. Subscribe to stay updated. I don't think people understand just how quietly China changed the rules of global finance. In a quiet, bureaucratic move behind closed doors and away from the spotlight, a significant decision was made. China, once one of the World Bank's biggest and most consistent borrowers, simply stopped asking for loans, ending a decades-long relationship that had shaped its economic rise. There was no grand announcement, no press conference or official statement, just a deliberate, almost silent shift in policy. The world's most populous nation, which had once depended on international loans to fuel its development, was now confidently charting its own independent course. This wasn't just about money or financial transactions. It was a powerful statement of independence, a signal to the world that China was ready to stand on its own, and a clear shift in global power dynamics. The student, once eager to learn from the established order, had now become the master, setting new standards and expectations. For decades, the World Bank was the go-to lender for countries seeking to escape poverty, offering guidance, resources, and a path to development. But China's booming economy, rapid urbanization, and growing confidence changed everything, transforming it from a borrower into a global economic powerhouse. Stepping away from World Bank borrowing marked the end of an era, closing a chapter in China's economic story and opening a new one. China no longer saw itself as a developing nation in need of guidance, but as a global leader ready to write its own rules and influence the world stage. The implications were enormous, even if they didn't always make headlines. Economists, analysts, and world leaders took notice of this subtle but profound change. China was now building its own financial institutions, like the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and lending billions to other countries on its own terms, reshaping the global financial landscape. The old Western-led system of global finance was being challenged as China's influence grew and new alliances formed. This quiet no was, in reality, a loud proclamation of a new economic age, one where China was no longer a follower, but a leader shaping the future. To truly grasp the weight of China's recent decision, it's important to first understand what the World Bank is and why it matters on the global stage. The World Bank is not just another financial institution. It plays a unique and powerful role in shaping the world's economies. Founded in 1944, its original mission was to help rebuild a world shattered by the devastation of World War II and to fight poverty across nations. The World Bank provides crucial loans for infrastructure, like roads, power plants, and schools, especially in places where private lenders are unwilling to take the risk. But the World Bank is more than just a lender. It also offers technical expertise, policy advice, and guidance, often requiring countries to implement economic reforms in exchange for its support. Funded by its 189 member countries, the bank can lend at interest rates far lower than what developing nations could get elsewhere, making it a lifeline for many. For decades, this model was the cornerstone of international development, helping to lift millions out of poverty and modernize entire regions. Countries used World Bank loans to transform their societies, building highways, dams, hospitals, and schools that changed lives for generations. Being a major borrower was seen as a badge of partnership with the world's leading economies, a sign of trust and cooperation. That's why China's decision to step away from the World Bank was so profound and unexpected. It signaled not just a policy change, but a break from the established global system that has shaped international development for nearly 80 years. In the late 1970s, China was a nation struggling on many fronts. The country was deeply impoverished, its infrastructure in a state of disrepair, and its people facing daily hardships that seemed insurmountable. Hundreds of millions lived in poverty, with rural communities especially hard hit. Many families resided in simple, cramped homes, lacking access to basic services and opportunities for advancement. When Deng Xiaoping came to power, he recognized that for China to rise, it needed two crucial things: capital to invest in its future and knowledge to guide its transformation. In 1980, China made a pivotal decision to join the World Bank. The very first loan wasn't for a dam or a factory, but for education, specifically to strengthen its universities and cultivate talent for the future. The World Bank provided not just funds, but also expertise and technical assistance, helping China modernize its education system and lay the groundwork for future innovation. Over the next 3 decades, China became one of the World Bank's largest and most important clients, receiving support for a wide range of projects. Loans from the bank funded the construction of expressways, the development of modern ports, and ambitious environmental projects, essential building blocks of what would become China's economic miracle. China eagerly absorbed technical advice, implemented new ideas, and delivered results at a pace that astonished the world, building infrastructure faster and more efficiently than anyone had anticipated. The relationship was mutually beneficial. The World Bank gained a remarkable success story, while China acquired the tools and resources it needed to lift millions out of poverty and transform its society. China became a model student, using each loan and project as a stepping stone toward greater self-reliance and modernization. This partnership fueled unprecedented growth, turning once sleepy towns into bustling economic zones and transforming the nation's skyline. But as China's capabilities and confidence grew, its need for outside help gradually diminished, and it began charting its own course. The era of dependence was ending, and a new chapter for China was about to begin. By the mid-2000s, China had transformed into an economic giant. Its foreign reserves soared into the trillions, and it no longer needed World Bank loans. The student had outgrown the teacher. Why borrow a few $100 million when you have cash to spare? The 2008 global financial crisis was a turning point. China's state-led system proved resilient, boosting its confidence. Borrowing from the World Bank declined, and projects shifted to targeted areas like environmental protection. By the mid-2010s, China was lending more to other countries than it was borrowing. The transition was gradual but decisive. China had become a net creditor, not a recipient. The era of China as a developing nation seeking aid was over. Now it was shaping the global economy. The world had a new financial powerhouse. China's move away from World Bank borrowing wasn't a snap decision. Top economic planners and political leaders orchestrated a strategic shift. They saw that China's own banks now had more lending power than the World Bank. The choice was pragmatic, about numbers and national interest, not ideology. Beijing's leadership embraced the pivot, seeing it as a step toward greater sovereignty and global stature. The process was gradual, not abrupt. China continued to engage with the World Bank, but as a partner, not a borrower. It maintained access to expertise while asserting its new status. It was a masterclass in financial and diplomatic maneuvering. China's quiet withdrawal sent ripples across the developing world. Suddenly, nations had a new option: World Bank loans with strings attached, or Chinese loans with fewer conditions. China began lending billions for infrastructure through its own banks and the Belt and Road Initiative. The World Bank and IMF felt the pressure, forced to adapt to a new competitor. China's rise as a lender was a wake-up call for the old guard, but it also brought risks. Critics warned of debt traps and lower standards. The ripple effect was complex, creating new opportunities and challenges. The global development landscape was fundamentally reshaped. China's next step was to become a banker itself. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, was born, a new institution in China's image. Launched in 2016, the AIIB aimed to fund infrastructure across Asia, filling gaps left by the World Bank. China invited other countries to join, giving the bank international legitimacy. Despite U.S. skepticism, major Western allies signed on. The AIIB quickly became a key player in global development, co-financing projects with the World Bank. China was no longer just playing in the system, it was shaping the rules. The AIIB symbolized China's journey from borrower to leader. The global financial order was being rewritten. China's story is a lesson in self-reliance. It used World Bank loans as a stepping stone, not a crutch. Leaders borrowed what worked, adapted it, and moved on. Pragmatism, not ideology, drove their strategy. China's high savings and state-directed investment fueled its growth from within. The real lesson isn't to copy China, but to have a clear national strategy and build domestic capacity. Use partnerships to become stronger, not dependent. The goal of development aid should be to make itself unnecessary. True success is standing on your own and helping others do the same. Today, the global financial landscape is multipolar, with China as a major economic power. China leads in technology and finance, influencing lives worldwide. The quiet no to the World Bank was a prelude to this new reality. Now China and the World Bank are partners and equals. China is a donor and a case study, helping address global challenges. The competition between US-led and China-led models creates both opportunities and friction. The world is more interconnected and more fragmented. Navigating this complexity requires careful diplomacy. The story of China and the World Bank is about change, rising powers, and evolving global structures. Understanding this moment helps us understand the world we live in today.